We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are conducting life-changing research that solves the problems of today. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
Welcome to the POMcast with Stephen Willis. Now we're going to do things a little different. We are going to provide an honest look at Ole Miss athletics for the fan, by the fan, and of the fan. That is what we do. Hell be to me. I'm just kidding. Tune in for some Ole Miss sports news. We're going to give it to you straight. Yeah, right now. The POMcast starts now. It happens now. Holy cow. Listen to me. It's starting. Well, it's going to start right about now. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the POMcast on this beautiful Friday morning from the palatial Central Florida studios. I am your host on this magical mystery tour we call Ole Miss Fandom, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much for joining us today. Before we get started, I do want to tell you about this because you are running out of time. You've got about 5 days for this. I want to talk about the Vault Society. That is the major push from the Ole Miss Athletics Foundation. It's a 5-year commitment of support. Membership starts at $5,000 a year, and there's a benefit chart on the site. We'll give you that in just a second. All gifts to Ole Miss between now and June 30th, there's the 4 or 5 day thing I was talking about, will receive triple points. Red points are non-deductible and go towards priority seating. Blue points are 90% tax deductible and go towards parking and non-home ticketed games. That'd be bowl season, postseason, neutral site. There's a fine example of that coming up on Labor Day. If you have any questions about it, go to give2athletics.com. Again, that is give2athletics.com. Thanks for watching. You can catch us on Twitter at the Stephen Willis or at the Rebel Walk. You can catch us on Facebook at POMcast, POMcast, facebook.com/POMcast, or The Rebel Walk, facebook.com/The Rebel Walk. You can catch us there. You're on Facebook at Positively Ole Miss. Subscribe, hit the bell. You'll not only know that we're streaming, you'll know what we're streaming about. So no matter how you take it in, it's a good way to have on your phone so you can get the notifications. You'll always know when something's happening. And we're also on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss, all one word. We're on audio at Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and Pandora. We're on several other podcatchers as well, but this show's only 30 minutes long, so there's not really enough time to list them all. So thank you very much for joining us today. Today, in the second segment, I'm going to break into how the media, especially the national media, because they have to do this, is setting Matt Corral up as next year's Zach Wilson. That you see all the Heisman lists and everything come out, and they're going to act like Matt Corral came out of nowhere, even though he's the returning leader in QBR. So be prepared for that. We've gone over several times why he's not included on lists this offseason. Now all of a sudden he's starting to show up and it's starting to gain a little bit of traction. Just so people can have it on the record that they called their shot. They picked Zach Wilson before the rest of the country knew who Zach Wilson was. That type thing. And they just, I don't know. I don't know why they're doing it, but that is the second segment of this show. The first segment of the show today, thank you for joining us, revolves around Jay Johnson, the former Arizona baseball coach who just got the job at LSU. Now, why are we talking about Jay Johnson on an Ole Miss show? Well, that is actually quite simple. I want to talk about the failure that happened in regards to the media and this search, to where nothing seemed to be true at all. And everything went a completely different way, which makes you wonder. Now, we've told you several times that where your source sits on the game of telephone depends on how reliable they are. Well, these sources came out were like 10th or 11th on the game of telephone. Nobody was getting firsthand information. It was all being fed from Skip Bertman, or his camp, that area right there. That started the whole thing. People ran with it and just embarrassed themselves. Now, the media makes a point to call out coaches for underperforming, to force changes based on a narrative go over and over, based on their will. My question is to you, can we fire the media? Are they expected to perform? If they're going to put somebody else at such a high standard of execution, why aren't they there as well? Why aren't they there? They can influence and ruin another person's life just off of a will to make money and sell subscriptions. What happens when they're wrong? Dead wrong. Is there any consequences whatsoever for the media? You know, it's gotten to the point where, I don't know, some semblance of pressure needs to be applied. I don't know exactly what that looks like. I mean, that might be the SID pulling media credentials. Something needs to be happening, because I have worked, 20 years in the media at this point. I know all about this stuff. I know how it all works. I've done all of this. I've had all these conversations. But coming into this off season, I said that the weathermen, which I refer to them, whenever somebody pretends to play the breaking news game, when in reality, if you break something, you got about 30 seconds on Twitter. It's a complete waste of energy, and you can really just judge a person, by that. Or if they're willing to do that, that tells you what type of person they are. If they're willing to put that much effort into that little reward, that tells you a lot about what they are. But I came into this and saying the used to, back in the days of Rusty Hampton and Rick Cleveland and all those in the heyday of the Clarion Ledger back then, they usually hit at a 40-50% rate. I mean, it was a decent clip for hitting, because their unnamed sources told the truth. You could believe what was being said, and there was no self-interest at hand. There was nobody there. The advertising booth wasn't sitting right next to the assignment desk where they can influence each other. Now that's all changed, and I came into the season, thinking that 20%, that's how much they're right. 20% of the time they're actually getting this right, which is well below us. That's half as good as the Rick Clevelands and the guys were back in the day, because stories sit next to money, and everything is based on how much money you can make. That's the motivation for everything. But I think I gave them too much credit. See, I was looking at him like a Mendoza line hitter in the major leagues. And it turns out they're a Mendoza line hitter in the Texas League, trying to determine if they still want to try to play baseball. Hitting 197 against they used to be the Midland Angels. I don't know what they are now. If anybody knows what they are, hit me up below. Against the Tulsa Drillers way back in the day. And it's gotten to the point where you just can't believe at all. They're going to try and use drama to sell subscriptions. That's how this works. That's the baseline. Whenever something is coming up to where they can use drama, they use drama. Now, whether they make up news, I don't know. I can't say for sure that they are. I know in the past they have, but I can't say for sure that they are on this. It could be a source that is just lying to the reporter. That happens more than you know. But there kind of needs to be some semblance of consequences to get this media thing back on track. Now, we are in a place as a society, thank God, and this podcast is an example of that. Anybody can carry the water for this and cover a team. Anybody can. We don't have to buy a Clarion Ledger to find out what's going on in Oxford anymore. That's freely available online. Literally, the rebelwalk.com, you can let's see, yeah, gotta lean in a little bit. The rebelwalk.com, completely free, cover every team, provide a subscriber level experience for no money. All it costs you is your time, and it's well worth it. Yeah, I know. I say that every day, but it's absolutely true. So, what is going to set you apart and make it worth charging a subscription for, which is, to me, is evil to begin with. But what is going to set you apart? And honestly, there's nothing there. I mean, now they used to make their money, like the most valuable thing, by the way, this is a little inside baseball, on a Rivals or 24/7 site is the message board. That's the most important thing on those sites. We had meetings all about this stuff. The second is recruiting coverage. So if you can stir up the message board and get them active, that's a good thing for you. Now, it doesn't help you attract new subscribers necessarily. You need something out external to push that, like a coaching search, whether manufactured or not. And then they can spin it and kind of work that towards subscriptions. But we're talking about a subscriber base about like the readership of the Holly Springs newspaper, the Coldwater newspaper. We're not talking about a large number of fans. They might be loud. And on social media, we all know social media isn't real. I mean, it's just a large game of catfish. It's all performative. So that's not real. So we're dealing with, let's be generous and say 12,000 people. There's some people crossing over, so it's probably closer to 9, but let's say 12 out of the whole fan base. Now, if every one of those fans went into Vaught Hemingway Stadium and sat down in the end zone, I don't know if they'd be able to fill it up. Just the end zone section. Not even including the rest of the stuff. So be careful with these people that are loudly trying to influence a narrative based off of rumor mongering and drama. Because not only do we not know if it's true, which, like I said, 80% of the time, 90% of the time, it proves not to be. But understand the motivation, why they're doing it. Because they need to. Their livelihood depends on you being upset, on your anxiety, on your angst. Their livelihood depends on that. So they do it over and over and over, and it becomes not punitive. And all of a sudden, you look around, and the fan bases, whenever they fill the stadiums down there, there's less and less people going to games. Why? Harder to get into information, and an overall narrative of ne'er-do-well. You know, some of these guys won't even go to a away game to cover it, but they would drive to Kentucky to report on the NCAA. It's all a game to them. They don't care about Ole Miss because they're not Ole Miss people. They will tell you they're not Ole Miss people. The value of the dollar is more important to them than anything dealing with Ole Miss. Now, I'm not asking them to withhold information or keep away bad news. What happens, happens. We'll report it here all the time, all day, every day. That's not a problem. It becomes a problem when it's about manufacturing that bad news, when things aren't what they seem. And they call their other reporter friends and rely on their reporting. And see, it's all a game of telephone. That other reporter tells them something's going on. They run with what the bits and pieces that they want to run with. That a conversation actually covered more information than what they ran with, and then it becomes less and less. Start of the game of telephone is probably we're looking at Omaha to find our coaches, and by the time it was reporting, it was Mike Bianco is 90% going to get the job by Friday. It doesn't match. There's no consequences whatsoever. So it becomes just a giant disinformation campaign from the athletic director. Nobody looked at Jay Johnson because everything was looking over here. So, yeah, that's that. And like I said in the title of this video, can we just fire the media? These little games they play, these little stupid little games they play, is just ridiculous. It's all disinformation. Nothing can be believed. And there's motivation of trying to sell subscriptions in the background. There's nothing unbiased about their reporting. Everybody talks about emotional attachments of fans. I'll take the emotional attachment of a fan over an emotional attachment to $1 every single day, because people do evil things over $1. Period. But anyway, Jay Johnson got hired at LSU. That was a great hire. I actually enjoyed watching them play. And whenever you make a mistake with a fastball, you talk about a team that punishes you. And him with Dylan Cruz and that first baseman, that should be worth watching over the next couple of years. I think Drew Bianco's down there as well. So we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk about the weird situation about Matt Corral and basically what's next for him. What's next for us? How's this looking? What are they setting up? Anyway, stick around. All right, welcome back to the POMcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much. I do want to tell you about the Rebel Walk. The Rebel Walk just does a fantastic job providing a subscriber level experience for no money. All it's going to cost is your time, and boy, oh boy, is it well worth it. Evelyn and her team have experts for every sport. It's probably the largest team working on Ole Miss sports today. I don't know the exact numbers, but I mean it's a bunch. So outside of the Manning Center, more people are concerned with Ole Miss sports than anywhere else. So if you have any questions about that, just go to check it out, therebelwalk.com. Again, that's therebelwalk.com. Now, I do want to tell you, I've noticed a little bit of shenanigans going on. In the first segment, we talked about just firing the media, and this is another media game that they're playing. This is more on the national level as well. Those guys have basically just ignored Matt Corral this whole offseason. And that's fine. That's whatever. The Spencer Rattler and the Sam Howell thing, okay, that's fine. Do whatever you need to do. And the same people voting on Heisman, they're going to, they make these lists ahead of times and they look for confirmation bias. Yeah, fine, we got it. But now all of a sudden you're starting to see a little bit of the bubbling of Matt Corral below the surface. Does anything change doing this? Is this anything different? Not necessarily, but what is happening, I believe, is the media are trying to call their Zach Wilson for next year's NFL draft. And that is the player that before the season didn't really show out. During the season, showed out. He shot up the draft boards, ended up the second pick of the draft. That type of deal. And basically, they're setting up the NFL draft and the Heisman Trophy as basically two separate things, which it kind of is because the media votes. The same group of people that are setting the front runners now are going to vote on it in December. It's not that hard. It's not really about football. It's not really about playing quarterback or wide receiver or anything. It's basically about a popularity contest with the media. And then the team that wins a whole bunch and all that is going to end up with a chance to go there because they're able to follow so little. There's such a small group of people that's been tasked with following so many teams and everything that it becomes a point where you just don't have time in the day to get it done. Not if you're going to have a personal life at all, or not if you're going to do all of this stuff on the side. So the ball gets dropped. So you need players like this to shoot up and be in the NFL draft because there's more people paying attention to this, and there are reporters that talk to scouts, and there are reporters that mention these type things going on. So do not be surprised if you see Matt Corral shoot up the NFL draft board and be completely ignored in December. Now, if Ole Miss can win 9 games this year, I think there's an argument for him. I think he's going to put up massive numbers this year, even without Elijah Moore. I do think the offense will be more diverse this year because of the loss of Elijah Moore. That's Zach Wilson's new slot receiver up there in New York, by the way. I think it should be interesting. I'm looking forward to my favorite triple option in the history of football. I will explain it again. This is probably the fourth time this week I've explained it because I just really like it. The first option is the jet sweep. You read the defensive end. If he comes through unblocked or if he hesitates, you hand the ball off on the jet sweep. The second read off of that defensive end is to the running back. Just running a regular zone play, probably inside zone. If he goes to the outside with the jet sweep guy, that hole opens up. Hand it off on the running back move. The third option would be the quarterback on the zone read going out the other side if they start to flow with the jet sweep that way. It is my favorite triple option in football right now. Absolutely. I could watch it all day. And you will see once timing gets built, the ability for us to do things like that. Lane Kiffin is a huge jet sweep guy. He's always been. If you remember back to the 2014 game against Alabama, huge jet sweep guy. Just what he is. Mix that with the zone read, which also explains why in his offense, at least in the beginning when they started, TJ Yeldon had a little bit of a leg up over Derrick Henry. It kind of changed the way they played whenever Lane Kiffin was handing the ball to Derrick Henry 45 times a game, which, by the way, I would too. But Ole Miss didn't have trouble with Derrick Henry. Just didn't. And, that's fine, but this triple option is just absolutely fantastic. But what I was saying is, I kind of went off on a little bit of a rant there. the media picks and chooses who they want to put up on a pedestal. The media plus NFL scouts picks who they want to put on a pedestal for the NFL draft. Really, I'm going to say trust your eyes, basically. If a player's good, player's good. Player's bad, player's bad. Do not trust the opinions of outsiders. Do not trust the opinion of people that come to their decisions over the power of an almighty dollar. It's gotten, the assignments desk and the ad department have gotten way too close, and sometimes the same people are doing both. And once those two mix, you just can't trust the story. You need independence, and that doesn't exist anymore. It's one of the reasons whenever we get going, and we're doing so slow with ad sales, intentionally, we want this to be something that'll just keep the lights on. No content influence is going to happen. You buying in with us will be basically based on my past history, whether or not you agree with me. And that's fine. There are going to be people that agree with me. There are going to be people that disagree with me. That's absolutely fine. But take this Friday over the weekend and just think about any story that comes out from the media. Any story. And like I said, 20 years of media, I've had all these conversations. But the fact that money is that close, realize who is in charge of the money and who's in charge of the content. And then understand that one influences the other. They are commingled at this point. So, if you are somebody that frightens easily, you are the target audience of that story. Not necessarily the truth, not necessarily facts. Those things are useless in today's media environment. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. There's not going to be any Edward R. Murrow coming through that door. There's not going to be a Walter Cronkite coming through that door. It's just going to be a bunch of people that are selfishly taking this as a means to make money. That's just the world we live in at the moment. And it's probably going to be the world we live in going forward, because the individual reporter being able to pop up from anywhere, you don't have to go to a newspaper. You don't have to have 13 levels of supervision anymore. You can just pop up like me on social media and do my thing. That's going to make it hard, and that is going to allow unsavory people into this. Me, my motivation is to cover Ole Miss fairly. My motivation is not to take advantage of fans who are trying to come up with an opinion of what's going on, a reason why this is happening. I am not in the business of coaching searches, and I'm not in the business of breaking news. Like I said, it's a waste of time. Waste of effort. Anybody that breaks a story has it for 30 seconds, 60 seconds on Twitter, period. It's gone. Don't even know who broke it at that point. So, I'm going to give you a couple minutes back before the weekend. I do thank you for joining us today. We did a little media talk today with a little bit of Matt Corral. Thank you very much for that. This today at 2 o'clock, Rebel Rankings coming out. We're going to try again to hook up and do a Rebel Walk recruiting show tonight with Leanne Herring. And got an Alabama preview coming for you next week. We're recording that tonight. Today's going to be a busy day for us. So stick around, have fun, and if you're not having fun, leave. Hotty toddy.